Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the Colombians Football Report. Today we will talk about Day 8 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Now before we get into the video, 82% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now let's get to the video. And the first game that took place today was Czechia versus South Africa. This was a game that both teams knew that they could not lose. A loss for either team would have practically eliminated them from the World Cup. So both teams knew that they needed a draw at least, and that is exactly what happened. Both teams they tied 1-1. Now for the first few minutes of the game in Atlanta, Czechia were the better team. They started off strong and they got a deserved goal in the 6th minute thanks to Sadilek, and it was a very nice goal. It was some great passing play. It was just a very satisfying goal to watch. And South Africa, they looked lost just like they were in the first game. However, Czechia, they decided to sit back instead of attacking more. And I understand that Czechia, most of their best players are defensive minded players. They don't really have that many good attacking talent. So I can understand why they would want to sit back after scoring a goal. But they just did it way too early into the game. And South Africa, they took advantage of it. They had the ball more. They had more possession, more shots. Granted, not too many dangerous chances, especially in that first half. It was pretty dull, in all honesty. The first half, besides the early goal from Czechia, it was a pretty dull first half. But in the second half, you could tell that South Africa were definitely the better team. They were attacking much more. Czechia barely had any chances at all. And it got to a point where South Africa, they truly deserved to tie the game. Now, I'm not even saying that South Africa had an insane game, because while they were the better team, they didn't exactly put so much pressure on Czechia either. Czechia were still under some relative control in this game, but you could still tell that South Africa were definitely trying more than Czechia. And if I'm being honest, I think both teams today were not as good as they could have been. And I think the draw is a deserved result as a result of that, because neither team deserved to win this game. They were both not good enough. Late in the game, a penalty was given to South Africa. At first, I thought it wasn't a penalty because I thought that the Czechia player had his arm tucked in, but upon further replay, they showed that it actually hit his other arm, and that arm was wide open, so it was the correct decision. And Mokoena scored South Africa's first World Cup goal in 16 years, a big moment for their fans, and that goal gives them hope. And both of these teams, despite both of them not being as good as they could be, they are still both alive as a result of this draw. They both desperately need to win their final game. Czechia are playing against Mexico, and South Africa are playing against Korea. I think South Africa have a slightly better chance of going through, but I'm still not completely sure of that. And to be honest, right now, I think that this group is going to be one of the groups where the third place teams gets eliminated, because I can see the third place team finishing with 2 points. I would be surprised if South Africa or Czechia got a win in either one of their games, but you never know. And at the end of the day, this result is not too bad for both teams. It's a little bit better for South Africa and Czechia, but it's also not the most ideal situation. They're both staring into the abyss, but we have to see what happens in that final match day. Next, we have Switzerland versus Bosnia and Herzegovina. And upon watching the first 70 minutes, if you told me that this game will end with 5 goals, I would have been shocked, because the first 70 minutes, they were actually pretty close. Both teams had their opportunities. Both teams, they had their set pieces. They were kind of equal in possession a little bit. Maybe Switzerland had the ball more, but both teams were definitely in the game. But then out of nowhere, the game sprung into life, and it was Switzerland who got a crucial win against Bosnia, and they really needed to win, because that first game where they drew against Qatar was incredibly disappointing. And if they lost or drew this game, they could have been in serious danger of getting eliminated in one of the easiest World Cup groups of all time. But they didn't let that happen, and a big reason for that was the super sub, Manzambi, the 20-year-old attacking midfielder from Freiburg. He is one to watch. He is a baller. He came off the bench, and he basically single-handedly won this game for Switzerland. I hope now that Switzerland put him in the starting 11 for the rest of the tournament because he's just such an exciting player to watch and he deserves to be starting. He truly has potential to be a world class player one day. He came off the bench and in just 2 minutes after coming off the bench, he scored a brilliant volley to give Switzerland a 1 goal lead. Then 6 minutes later, he put in a through ball. I think it was to Ambolo, if I remember correctly, and Ambolo was tackled 1-on-1 with the keeper, and Muharemuric, he got a red card. Obvious, it was a very obvious red card. And from then on, Switzerland, they just dominated. Vargas, he scored a brilliant goal. I think he's a very underrated player. Then Manzambi, he scored again. Like I said earlier, he's a baller. He's a fantastic footballer. And Bosnia, they did get a consolation with a fantastic volley from Mamic, but just 4 minutes after that, they gave away a very dumb penalty, and Xhaka put it away to give Switzerland a crucial 4-1 win. And this win should have Switzerland in the next round. I would say it's like a 99% chance that Switzerland have qualified for the next round after winning this game 4-1. But for Bosnia, despite this loss, they're not in a bad situation because their first draw against Canada on match day 1 was crucial because now their final games against Qatar, and you would expect Bosnia to win that game. And if they win that game, they'll have 4 points, and that should be enough to advance as one of the third place teams. So I still think Bosnia will be fine, but obviously this is a crucial win for Switzerland, and it's showing the world that they can be a serious team and that the 1-1 draw with Qatar was just a fluke. The next game we're going to talk about is the second real battering that happened in this World Cup. The first one was Germany 7, Curacao 1. This is the second one. Canada 6, Qatar 0. Believe it or not, this is Canada's first ever World Cup win. They've never won in the World Cup before today. And what a way to do it. I mean, they were so dominant from start to finish. I don't even remember Qatar having a shot, in all honesty. Now, granted, Canada, they did win 6-0, and a big part of that was that Qatar went down to 9 men pretty early on in the second half, and that made things super easy for Canada. If this was an 11 versus 11 game, Canada would have still won for sure, but it probably would have been 3-0 instead of 6-0. But still, they were so dominant. They absolutely deserved to win. Kyle Larin, he gave Canada the lead. He's been immense for them in this World Cup so far. 2 goals in 2 games. There are a lot of people doubting him, but I don't think those doubters are raising their voices anymore. Because now Kyle Larin, he has 2 goals in 2 games, and that is a fantastic record for him and for Canada. Then after that, Jonathan David, he scored a insane volley. Very good goal, very good finish. And then a couple minutes later, Qatar, they got a red card. Lamin took down a Canadian player as he was through on goal from outside the box. Obvious red card because he was 1-on-1 with the keeper. And Canada took advantage of their man advantage, and they scored a third goal right before the end of the half. Jonathan David, after the goalkeeper made a save, but he rebounded it in the direction of Jonathan David, and he got his second goal of the game. And then the second half started, and it looked more like the same. Canada were just dominating. But unfortunately, at the 51st minute, that's when the big talking point of this game happened. It's sad that Canada won 6-0 and won their first ever World Cup game, yet they couldn't really celebrate it as much as they wanted to because there was something that overshadowed that. And that was the horrific injury of Ismail Kone, one of Canada's most important players. Unfortunately, he suffered a leg break after the Qatari player Madibo kicked him like in the lower part of his leg, and it shattered his leg. It's a gruesome injury. I'm not gonna go into detail, but just know it was very gruesome and a very sad injury, especially since Kone was expected to get a big move after the World Cup. Teams like Inter Milan were linked with him, but after this leg break, the transfers are probably not going to happen. You could just tell the players on both teams, they looked distraught. Madibo, he felt bad. He didn't want to break his leg, obviously. But it was just a very unfortunate accident. But if there is some encouraging news, is that when Kone was taken off the field in the stretcher, he was clapping the Canadian fans. He had his head held high, obviously with an oxygen mask, but still he was able to say goodbye to the fans, and they gave him a standing ovation. That was a brilliant moment. That was one of my favorite moments of the World Cup. It came after a tragic moment, of course, but you could really tell that those Canadian fans, they love Kone, and that standing ovation was very nice to see. And after that, Saliba, he came on to replace him, and just a few minutes later, he scored a brilliant free kick, make it 4-0. He dedicated the goal to Kone, and since Qatar were down to 9 men after Kone broke his leg, Canada, they just dominated the game. The rest of the game, it was literally all like Canada just attacking. Almanai scored an own goal after Schaffelberg tried to scissor kick the ball into the back of the net. And right at the last minute, Saliba, he tried a shot from long range, and it deflected right into the path of Jonathan David, and he got his hat trick. So now he is equal with Lionel Messi in the World Cup Golden Boot race. So this is a crucial win for Canada. Canada are now top of the group, and if Canada get a draw against Switzerland, they will finish top of the Group B. That's all they need. They need a draw at home in Vancouver against Switzerland, and they will finish top of the group. That would be a huge achievement for Canada. And I mean, even if they lose after this 6-0 win, their goal difference is fine. They have 4 points already. They're definitely through to the next round. And this will be the first time in history that Canada will play in the knockout stages of a World Cup. And the last game that happened today was Mexico versus South Africa. Now, unfortunately, this was a very boring game. The first half, I mean, I can barely name any memorable moments. I think South Korea were slightly better, though. They had a few more shots, they had more possession, but you could just tell it wasn't like an intense game at all. It almost felt like both teams were trying to play for a draw, at least in that first half. But the second half was a little bit better. Mexico, they got the lead after a huge mistake from Kim. He dropped the ball, and it came into the path of Luis Romo, and he scored. A lot of Mexican fans were criticizing him because they think that he's quite simply not a good footballer. And maybe it's true he didn't have the most inspiring performance today either, but he did score the goal. He was there to tap the ball in after the huge mistake from the South Korean goalkeeper. And that was a crucial goal because that was the only goal of the game. There was really only one other memorable moment that happened in this game after that, and that was Rangel making an insane double save. That was like prime Guillermo Ochoa-esque. I'm not sure who got man of the match in this game, but for me it should have been Rangel because that double save was so good. That literally gave Mexico the 3 points. And just for that, I think he deserves man of the match. And he's a young goalkeeper, and it looks like Mexico, they have their long-term replacement for Guillermo Ochoa. And this win was crucial for Mexico because now they are in the knockout stages. They have confirmed it already. And not only are they in the knockout stages, but they have confirmed first place because in this World Cup, the tiebreaker is head-to-head records. Czechia and South Africa, they already cannot catch up to Mexico points-wise. The only team that can do that is South Korea. But even if they both get 6 points, the tiebreaker is head-to-head record, and obviously Mexico just beat South Korea, so they have the better head-to-head. So Mexico have already secured first place in their group. They can rotate literally everyone in their last game with no issues whatsoever. And this is good news for Mexico because that means in the round of 32 and in the round of 16, if they make it there, they will be playing in the Estadio Azteca. So they will have a huge home field advantage for potentially 2 knockout games. And that is why I think Mexico could seriously make a deep run in this World Cup. So that is it for day 8 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Make sure you like the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel like I said earlier. I have nothing more to say, and have a good night, everyone.